Please come. Sit down, please.
Good morning, sir.
Matthews, you are a throughout first divisioner with electronics and communication engineering as a background,
Yes.
as your bachelor's. Now, I would like to understand from you the basic difference between 3G, 4G, and 5G. What do we understand by these three?
So the G refers to the generation. 3G refers to the transformation after 2G with a focus on data communication. The speed of communication has increased significantly. There is among 3G, 4G, and 5G, there is a difference in the data speeds, in the latency rate, in the technology which is used. So with 3G, the maximum data speeds were around 100 Mbps. Oh no, sorry. For 4G, it is 100 Mbps. For 5G, it is around 1 Gbps. And for 3G, I'm not certain.
So what will be the impact and the consequences of introducing 5G in terms of, in totality, if I were to request you to give me 4 bullet points in respect of the advantages and the perceived disadvantages of introducing 5G?
So 5G is a very revolutionary technology because of the incredible amounts of data which can be sent. So the increased data speed itself is the main advantage, which would enable other supportive technologies like Internet of Things, the wearables technology, the smart homes, smart cities. Everything would be revolutionized. But the problem here, the latency rate is also very low, which is again promoting the other supportive technologies. But the problem here is that 5G uses completely different antenna system, which is very small. The area it uses multiple bands, unlike 4G, which uses only one single band. It uses beam focusing. The distance of transmission is much smaller, so it would require multiple small antennas placed at different close locations. So the investment is also much higher. So one of the advantages which I missed out is that the power consumption would be much lower for 5G.
You have enumerated the various advantages. There are certain disadvantages and very serious ones regarding the induction of this technology.
So first, most important is cost, because since the technology is changing, it would require a lot of investment into the infrastructure. The telecom industry is already suffering from a lot of distress recently. Now, earlier a few years back there were almost 10 players. Right now there are only 3 major players, and now again they are under stress. So sudden transmission and the incredible amounts of competition involved makes the profit levels very small. So it's a major challenge for the companies itself. Then apart from that, as I mentioned earlier, the antennas will have to be placed in different areas.
Is there a question of hardware and software compatibility also?
Yes, sir. There is a major problem of hardware and software compatibility because of the difference in technologies involved. Earlier, there was only one major antenna involved, but here these are micro cells. So each cell needs to have a small antenna.
Okay, in respect of 5G, what is its impact on the environment? Is it has a positive impact, neutral impact, or a negative impact?
So there has been studies which say that it has a major impact on, for example, on the birds, on human health. But the studies have not been very conclusive, so it's hard to take a stand with such.
This again is a matter that raises concerns. It is said that these transmitting towers did not impact human health, but that was 15 years ago. Today, it is a medically proven fact that they do impact human health very adversely. Similarly, when there comes the introduction of a new technology, there is something known as sponsored medical research, that they will only conduct a research and come out with predetermined conclusions. So are we on the right track, or are we still treading into the unknown, rushing into the unknown?
So the sponsored medical research is a fact, because most of these, the government or the individual research agencies do not have the adequate finances nor the expertise to analyze the effects of such technologies, and also the effects become available or seen only after a considerable amount of.
This is about environment. Okay, you understood. Then the major player in 5G is Huawei. And Huawei is known the world over for malpractices and espionage. Do you think that, again, are we quoting the recipe of disaster, or are we think we are taking the right path in inviting Huawei to do us the 5G?
So Huawei, one of the owner itself was an ex-Chinese military man. But in 5G, there are only three major players right now. The biggest leader is Huawei itself, and second is Ericsson, and third is Nokia. But the problem here is that Huawei offers technology which is far cheaper, which is like one generation ahead of Nokia and Ericsson at a much cheaper price. So competitiveness is much higher. So, and Huawei has recently tried to dismiss the allegations by putting its own source code in the open domain. So it will be a tough choice, sir, but I think since at least we should shield our critical infrastructure away, like the military, like the police systems, like the healthcare, the government agencies will have to have their own specified safeguards. But
yes, Matthews, you played football, I think, at the university level.
yes, sir.
Which position you played there?
So I was a goalkeeper.
You are a goalkeeper. Okay. Who's the best goalkeeper of Indian football team right now?
So the present goalkeeper has been playing for quite a while. His name is Gurpreet Singh.
Which team he played? He's playing now? In ISL. Do you know about ISL?
Yes, sir, but I do not follow it, sir. I'm sorry.
All interested man. Okay, fine. You have the fish keeping also is one of the hobby.
Yes, sir.
Is it aquarium maintenance or something else?
Hello. So fish keeping is the hobby of maintaining fishes either in an aquarium or a pond.
You have a pond.
Yes, sir. I had a pond in my house, but right now I have only an aquarium.
Aquarium.
Yes, sir.
But the approach is different. Keeping fish in the pond and keeping in the aquarium actually.
Yes, sir.
And you have yoga is one of your hobby also.
Yes, sir.
How yoga is different from pranayama, or is it the both are the same?
So pranayama, yoga is consists of 8 branches. Pranayama is one of the branches of yoga. Yoga of the two, mainly asanas and pranayama are the two major ones. Pranayama refers to the breathing practices, so which has different forms also, like Ujjayi pranayama.
Yoga is a universal set and pranayama is a subset.
Yes, sir, of yoga.
Hello.
Is it that?
Yes, sir. It's or in the Ashtanga yoga, there are 8 limbs of yoga. Pranayama is one of the limbs of yoga.
Okay, fine. We are talking about that Industry 4.0 now is in our doorstep. What is this Industry 4.0?
So Industry 4.0 refers to the latest latest level of industrial revolution, which is mainly referring to areas like cyber physical systems.
What is the 4.0 means?
It is the fourth generation or the fourth
Industrial revolution.
Yes, sir, fourth industrial revolution.
It refers to
The new technologies which are coming up, like the cyber physical systems, the huge amounts of transformation which is taking place right now, like the 5G, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things.
when Industry 1.0 happened?
So, it happened with in Britain in 17.
Or which revolution would make it Industry 1.0?
The textile revolutions. The steam engine, invention of the steam engine was one of the factors, but I think
2.0?
I've mixed up.
Oh, fine. Yes, I'll be right. You know that these days younger generations are looking for the internet all the time. And I must add you that it was the Industry 3.0 when it came into existence.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Of course, the internet has put up a huge vista of knowledge to the younger generation. But it has also created lots of physiological, psychological, and emotional disorders in the children or younger generation.
Yes, sir.
Do you agree?
Yes, sir. Internet is it's not an is not just an instrument for communication, but it's also transforming the society at large. On one side, we have the positive aspects like the connectivity, increasing the amounts of information available. But on the other hand, we have major problems also, like the breakdown of social bonds, because people are more involved with their own small in front of the digital screens rather than going out socializing. Something the social capital is reducing. There are even medical causes, like for example mental disorders, cognitive reduction of cognitive capabilities due to excessive use of digital media, and attention span is reducing. So it has social factors in physiological effects, but also positive sides, sir. So
Tell me, that's fine, that's well explained. Tell me how a balance can be made out. Because the younger generation all the time looking on the screen now.
yes, sir.
Whether it is the internet or whether it is the mobile phone or whatever it may be. How a balance can be made out.
So I do not think we can ban them or forbid them from using internet, because that would be, they have the freedom to use what they want. But I think we'll have to promote other extracurricular activities. We'll have to promote more social interactions. We need the interaction between family, the peers. We'll have to, and at the same time, the evils of the internet and the digital media, like for example, pornography, the frauds, cyber security issues, the phishing.
Cyber security?
Cyber security refers to the problems which are created for an individual or for an organization or a country due to vulnerabilities arising due to the internet connectivity.
But these days, teens are also facing the cyber bullying. To address this particular problem, cyber bullying. Many percentage of many number of students are facing this
Yes, sir.
cyber bullying.
Cyberbullying is a major challenge. So I think we'll have to first focus on law enforcement. We'll have to enable the students to be aware of.
You have heard about these days NCOV, global.
Yes, sir. Novel coronavirus. Yes.
It has happened earlier also. We call it at that time SARS.
Yes, sir.
What is SARS? How is it different from this outbreak?
So SARS stands for the severe acute respiratory syndrome. It was there in China earlier. It was a major outbreak with almost 800 casualties. It is the same family of viruses as the novel coronavirus, of coronavirus family, because of the shape. So the differences in the transmission, which is here, both are zoonotic partially. But the symptoms are different, the fatality rates are different, the epidemiological reasons. So it's a different virus, but of the same family. So.
Okay. Yes.
I was just saying that you have also done MA in political science.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, and MA you have chosen as one of your optional subjects, political science. So political science has been my subject, that's why. So I would like to ask you, what is the difference between Gandhi's Ram Rajya and Marx's communism?
Ma'am, both have certain similarities and major differences also.
What are similarities, what are the differences?
The similarities are in that both of them distrusted the state, and both of them did not focus on a state-centric society. Because Mahatma Gandhi, he was a philosophical anarchist. Karl Marx also envisioned a stateless, classless society in the end. But the differences are mainly the means to the end. Because Marx focused on violent overthrow of capitalism, the proletariat dictatorship. It's a very dangerous concepts. Mahatma Gandhi's were more social in nature. He wanted a social revolution where with villages were at the center. For Marx, cities and the industrial society was at the center. So I think mainly it is the means of achieving the same goal now.
So these are the differences. What are the similarities?
First one is the state, the distrust of the state. Second would be the classless, casteless society, which also was focused on. But here the difference is in religion, because Mahatma Gandhi himself was a very religious person. So he gave fundamental rights, freedom, religious rights to every individual. Marx focused on abolishing individuals. He called religion as the opium of the masses. So, so the freedom levels of both the societies are quite different now.
What are the initiatives which have been taken in the government's Make in India program? Initiatives taken by the government under this Make in India program, it has become very famous.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, Make in India program is mainly targeted for improving the manufacturing output and exports of the country, so that it becomes, it absorbs the excessive labor from the agriculture, as well as provide remunerative employment for the youth. So it has taken multiple initiatives. First is the focus on ease of doing business, where the problems, the blocks, the barriers to trade has been removed slowly. Now the transport, the truck turnaround times, which was stated in the budget to have reduced by around 20%. We have the rank of ease of doing has increased significantly. Now we are promoting FDI under it. FDI has also, the inflows have increased. We are promoting domestic manufacturing by increasing skill development, by promoting entrepreneurship, by bringing in the Startup India scheme. And also at the same time, we are focusing on skilling, recognizing the skills of the youth, as well as helping them promote the newer industries which are coming up, like for example the labor intensive industries, mainly leather and textiles, man. So there are a host of initiatives.
What were our expectations from this Chandrayaan 2?
Ma'am, Chandrayaan 2 was aimed at studying the surface of the moon. So it had three components: the lander, rover, and the orbiter. So the lander was supposed, the objective of the lander was to go and take certain components, samples from the moon, so that we can study and analyze them, mainly to complete the process which we had begun with the Chandrayaan 1, which is confirming the presence of water, the study of solar rays, cosmic rays. In essence, it's basically the surface of the moon and the atmosphere of the moon, the impact of the sun on it. I do not know more details.
But which part they wanted to explore? That is the most important thing.
Yes, ma'am.
You left
They wanted to explore the south side, south pole of the moon, ma'am, which was not
unexplored.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I wanted. Okay.
So,
Tell me something about the Mopla uprisings of 1850s in Kerala.
So Mopla uprising was a major event which happened in Kerala, which was Moplas were the Muslims who were significantly improved, who traced the heritage from the Arab traders who had come from the past. So they were culturally very unique. But the problem here was that Islam had spread through the tenant class in Kerala. So the landlords were almost completely Hindus, and they were upper caste Hindus. So there was a lot of tensions between the two, and this was increased when the British came into the picture, because they started bringing in the permanent the land ownership laws, which gave tenancy right, which reduced the tenancy right and focused on recognizing the landholders. At the same time, these landlords sided with the British in identifying major issues. So the Moplas rebelled against the landlords against two major factors. One was the Jennis increasing the tenants, increasing the rents, and some illegal levies which were put up by the landlords. The illegal levies, which included, it had some specific names, sir, which I do not remember, but which were severe, which was unjust and felt by the masses that it was completely, which were making life extremely difficult for them. So for this reason, Moplas rose in uprising, and eventually they were crushed by the British.
What was the relationship between the Mopla uprising and the British misrule?
The British?
Misrule. or was there any relationship? Because the Moplas, their uprisings became fiercer with the increasing exploitation by the Britishers in those areas.
So the British, their revenue policy was focused only on extraction of as much rent as possible. It did not look into the consideration of either the landlords or the tenants. So when they increased the revenue demands, the landlords also increased the revenue extraction equally. So
Okay. You are interested in yoga.
Yes.
What is the difference between yoga and exercises? And how does yoga practically help you in your day-to-day life?
yoga is very different because it's a holistic perspective. It is not merely physical, but also involves a mental component and a spiritual component. Yoga includes the pranayama for the breathing practices. It helps calm our mind. It reduces stress. The yoga asanas, like for example, even the basic Surya Namaskar, if we repeat it for like 10 times, 20 times, it increases our joint flexibility. It's a good cardio exercise. Or even other forms of yoga, like Iyengar yoga or the Vikram yoga. Those have they increase the intensity. They make it very innovative. So it becomes almost a very cardiovascular exercise, which I think is very important for our society right now because of the rising levels of obesity, the major lifestyle diseases.
Can you name the 8 branches? Do you remember?
Yes, sir. The 8 branches are Yama, Niyama, Pratyahara, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi.
Thank you.
Matthew, you are a communication engineer basically.
Yes.
Yeah. What is the limit of high frequency? Limit.
Sir, the distance of transmission, the penetration level.
No, frequency. Earlier radio used to work. So there is some limit in that transistor. You will find the limit.
So I do not know. It's been a while since I left the field.
But the basic difference between high frequency and very high frequency, microwave. So there is some basic difference in transmission. See, high frequency can be reflected by ionosphere, whereas microwave and VHF, they cross it.
Yes.
So high frequency is basically ionosphere. It is reflected, and that's why its range is very high. But microwave range is very limited. Only through satellite you can increase the range. Your father is industrialist or what?
No, sir, he's an engineer working in Saudi Arabia.
That's Saudi Arabia. Yeah. Because I saw the income, so I thought he must be. Then recently Kerala was in news because of so many regions. Many church authorities, they have been leveling about love jihad, that Christian girls are being lured and inducted into ISI. Many reports of this sort has come in newspaper. So Kerala is highly educated and highly influential also. There is not much disparity between the rich and poor. Mostly people are very well off. And you don't find vacant land in Kerala along the road. The village extends for 100 miles. So with this much of literacy and knowledge, awareness, why people are being attracted towards either Naxalism or ISI?
So I think there is a major problem disconnect because literacy level it's not translating into the practical outcomes. Like for example, in Kerala, the suicide rates are very high. There is a lot of alienation. The unemployment rate is very high. Kerala has the third largest, highest unemployment rate in India right now. So all these factors, there is a lot of political dissatisfaction. That is the reason why the governments keep changing each time. There's a lot of anti-incumbency. People. when due to the high education and literacy levels, they are aware and they are very ambitious. They want higher job, better jobs. They are not satisfied with the small, like a blue collar job. Everybody wants a white collar job. So this increasing ambitions are not coinciding with what is actually happening in the ground level, the employment. So everybody, the opportunities are not much. So all these factors contribute to the alienation of the youth. So this, I think, is one of the most important factors. On the other hand, we have very intrinsic problems, sir, like the value crisis which our society is facing right now, because there are like the old value systems are breaking down, like the society based on the culture, the caste. They're based on religion are breaking down, and the new values are coming out of industrialization, of profit, of self-development, the social media. All these influences are causing a value crisis, again making the youth very confused. And most important, I feel, is also the family, the changes in the family system, what is happening, because both the mothers and fathers are working right now. So the youth are, again, they are left alone. In the traditional joint family system, the grandfathers were there, the parents were there to guide the youth through, like, which helped act like a shock absorber, preventing extreme movements of either side, of either going to like radicalism, or even though it had some disadvantages. But I believe in this regard, I think the social value problems could have been prevented if the family's mechanism was a lot stronger. Then there was peer pressure, social media, internet. So there are many factors, I think, which are affecting this issue, right?
But what is the way out? What is the solution in your view?
See, this, to the earlier question, this love jihad, I think, is a little exaggerated, because there were, I think, 2 families which went. There was only one case where a girl was converted. Her name was Merin, and she got converted and she went to Afghanistan. Later on, after that, there was no much of news regarding it. So I think it's partly used by the religious leaders to stoke up the religious fervor, and so I think it's partly very over-exaggerated, but it could be an issue, like the radicalization, the Naxalism, that is a major issue. So that we'll have to counter on one side by reducing the alienation, by increasing family values, by creating awareness of not just the youth but also the parents. We'll need more extracurricular activities like sports, more community events like parks. Such small activities increase the social capital of a society where people are coming together, people interacting. So it reduces the chance of isolation and alienation. And at the same time, we have to increase the law and order issues, because this propaganda material, it just transforms people's minds. Even a very normal, successful, happy person suddenly moving into a very extremist ideology is likely when they are in contact with extremist propaganda. So we'll have to strictly monitor it and deal with the people who are trying to propagate such extreme values.
हेलो फ्रेंड्स, दीक्षांत आईएएस प्रस्तुत करता है दीक्षांत फ्री कोचिंग एंड स्कॉलरशिप प्रोग्राम, भारत सरकार एवं गैर सरकारी संगठनों द्वारा वित्त पोषित। हेलो फ्रेंड्स, दीक्षांत फ्री कोचिंग एंड स्कॉलरशिप प्रोग्राम ऑनलाइन कोर्स का लाभ लेने के लिए गूगल प्ले स्टोर पर जाकर दीक्षांत एजुकेशन टाइप करें और हमारे ऐप को डाउनलोड करें, या दीक्षांत आईएएस के यूट्यूब चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें तथा ऑफलाइन कोर्स का लाभ लेने के लिए या इस बारे में विशेष जानकारी प्राप्त करने के लिए हमारे मोबाइल नंबर पर संपर्क करें 7428092240 9312511015 8851301204